I'm Taylor Oracle and had a request for Hellenistic astrology book versus ancient astrology book. So let's go over the ancient astrology book. Already did Hellenistic astrology. I think this was an excellent book. They're both relatively thick books about astrology. So Hellenistic astrology and ancient. Now, there's going to be some overlap. I won't go through the table of contents entirely because you can get that online at barnesandnoble.com. I paid, so this is, obviously, as it says, Volume 1, Assessing Planetary Condition. So she has another book, Astrology and the Authentic Self, Integrating Traditional and Modern Astrology. So I think this book sort of covers a lot of ground to meld the standard astrology that you see with traditional ancient astrology. And her other book I think is fantastic if you want to actually read with this. One of the problems that I found with Hellenistic, etc. astrology is that it was more of a, it's not really a complete package for me, at least, for doing a reading. I had to go to other books to get things like, you know, some more integrated things about planets and signs and things like that that just weren't covered here. So the techniques in here are interesting. However, for me, I'm anxious for Volume 2 because I think Volume 2 will sort of wrap up what we have introduced in Volume 1 and maybe sort of go a route of her other book and sort of tell how to integrate this and give examples and how to do things. That'll be kind of interesting. So the first part, you have the sort of an introduction and overview, historical things about the ancient astrology. Now we go to planets and sect. So, I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of overlap again between these two books, and obviously you do see a lot of overlap. One of the things that I liked about this particular book, The Ancient Astrology, was just how readable it was. I think in some parts of Hellenistic astrology, it sort of went into a textbook mode, like for example here, to where we have references on this entire section. And for me, some of the readability just sort of dwindled in certain sections because of, you know, again, it is very textbook. I mean, of course, and again, we have references all down through the pages, so the actual text was just a small bit up here. So unless you wanted to go and read these, which is fine, but coming back to them, I really wouldn't want to go back and read the references again once I've read them once. So it was kind of the readability suffered a little bit. Again, I loved Hellenistic astrology, but the readability is really all here with this particular book. So let's see, interpretations for whole sign conditions. So the lunar phase cycle, lunar phases, lunar rejoicing, loosening the bond. Again, get back to this with Hellenistic astrology, etc. And Chris does have a video course on Hellenistic astrology if you're interested in watching things like loosening of the bond, lunar things, the cycles. So eclipses was pretty interesting. The Lot of Fortune, again, I had already seen that. Zodiacal releasing, prenatal lunation, etc. So then we talk about aspect, the visual rays, again, going to have some overlap. And then we have exercises. So I think the exercises were kind of cool because, for example, here we have the function and classification of the signs. So talk about Aries, the ram, masculine, diurnal, etc., triplicity, bounds. And then at the end of this, you would have, for example, exercise 9. So it asks you about the characteristics of the zodiacal signs. And then it would ask you to fill it in. You know, what is the physical characteristics of Aries, the human behaviors, what types of things do you have associated with the different signs? And you have this at the end of each section, so I think it was kind of cool. So again, the polarity and gender at the end of here, we'll have example charts. And again, we'll have another exercise where you sort of go and fill this in. So I think the exercises at the end were really nice, and you have quite a few of those. And I think this sort of honed your knowledge. So in order to fill that in, you had to go back and review if you had not memorized it, etc. So I think that was a good thing for me, at least, to have as far as exercises went. A lot of good information here. Again, this cost me, I think, $49. Shipped, it will vary based upon your region, etc. But as you can see, the readability is here. The information is here. It's a lot of good stuff. I love the exercises. I think the font was good. It's easy to read. Again, when you have references, it doesn't take up the entire page. And a lot of things like the overviews sort of helped me quite a bit. And it's broken down into chunks. So you have part 4, the lunar cycles, etc. So, again, a lot of overlap between these two books. And as per the other review, I highly recommend Hellenistic Astrology, especially if you can get it on Google Books on an e-format for, I think, $12 or something like that. So this one did not have an ebook. As of the filming of the review, it did not have the ebook. Maybe it'll come out later, but I am looking forward to part 2, which again I hope is sort of how to integrate this into a reading and sort of culminate all your knowledge from all of this into a reading. So everything is here that you would expect, again, from ancient astrology. And overall, I mean, I just really like it. I think that the videos that Chris did for Hellenistic astrology really sort of helped me as far as getting through some of the material. I think if you're going in raw, you definitely want to watch a couple of videos, maybe on YouTube. Chris has some free videos, etc., to sort of get a more understanding of how all of this works, especially with some of the things that involve heavy math, etc., as far as calculating backwards to get this and that. Anyway, I really like this book. Again, the plus side, the readability, the examples, the sort of the quizzes, exercises at the back of the sections, and I think this is really something that you would want to pick up. If I had to choose from between these two, what would I choose? Because the overlap, there is a lot, obviously, of overlap between the two. I think they have their own place. I think that Hellenistic astrology is going to be something to where you want more of a textbook, you want more of a step-by-step, laid it out for you, etc. Ancient astrology, you want more readability and exercises to help sort of quiz you at the end of sections. Again, videos are going to help a lot, especially with some of these things. Either way, I think that Demetra George's other book, again, you can get it on the Kindle, that Astrology for Yourself, that sort of wraps this astrology type into sample readings and lets you see in sort of real time how to apply this to your readings to give you more features within your readings, to give you some more cool stuff, etc. So overall, with the pluses and minuses, the minus being there's no ebook version of this as of this review. It would be nice to have an ebook version of this so you can just sort of carry it around. Obviously, this being, it's just not a portable thing that you're going to take on the bus, kind of thing. So, again, pluses and minuses, overall rated a 9 out of 10. I think this is an excellent book, and I look forward to part 2. I think volume 1 and 2 combined, once volume 2 comes out, just making an assumption, is really going to give an edge as far as which book to get, to give an edge to this particular book, in my opinion. Again, just because I think the part 2 hopefully will add the rest of the things that are missing from this that you get in Hellenistic astrology and give you a perspective for how to read using this. Anyway, excellent book, well worth the $49 if you are so inclined. And that is my look at ancient astrology in theory and practice.